All 5,000 pounds of the fuel was in the right side, and it was like this. Hey, Michael Rassa again here. We're here to talk about type ratings and owner-operator perspectives after flying the little Saratoga for a while and then moving right into King Airs and getting typed in the King Air 300, 350, then moving out of that and into my first jet, which was a Falcon. Very, very, very hard for me type rating as my very first type. I'm an ATP with 6 types today. That was very hard. Very, very hard. I think mostly because it was my first and it was a really fast jet. The technology is really old, really old. And that type rating was, I did that in 2014. And the sim was really old. The equipment was really old. They did not cut me much slack. It was hard. I did not think I didn't think I was going to pass check ride, but I did. But it was really hard. Second type rating was the Falcon 20. Way easier. Much larger aircraft. Same old equipment, but I was more experienced. I was more knowledgeable on how things happen really fast in a jet. And you have to stay way ahead of the aircraft and really, really focus on that. And then the next type rating was the Mustang, which was very simple. I mean, we did that in the plane. The next type rating was on the Honda jet up in Greensboro with flight safety. That was also extremely easy for myself because it was miles ahead of any of the Falcons as far as technologically advanced. That aircraft is built for like a half of a single pilot. I mean, it's just really built and around easeability to run that aircraft. I mean, there's so much automation. It makes it very, very easy to fly. So I love the Honda. When you have multiple type ratings, the FAA permits you to rotate your type training. So for example, if one might have 4 type ratings, but at their annual time for recurrent, if they're only flying 1 aircraft, well then naturally that would be the aircraft you would go and do your recurrent in. Well, if you have 2 aircrafts, and in our case, for Debbie and I, we often had 2 different aircraft, either a Falcon 10 or a Falcon 20 or a Falcon 10 and a Mustang and a Falcon 20 or a King Air or a Honda and a Falcon. And so you can rotate every year. So if I did the Honda this year, next year I do it in the Falcon. The next year I do it in another Falcon. Next year I do it in a Citation. Next year I do it back into the Falcon or back into the Honda. And so Bill Woods, our mentor and coach, introduced us to a gentleman named Sal Manganaro. Sal, I think today is maybe 79 or 80. He's a master pilot. He's won the Master Pilot Award, which is 50 years of flying without incident or accident. He worked for Mr. Dassault and the Dassault family in Paris, France for 20 years when the Falcon 20s were first put into a production in the late 60s, and he delivered these Falcons all over the globe to princes and, well affluent individuals who wanted their own personal aircrafts. And then eventually he and his wife moved back to Connecticut, and then he went to work for about a year and a half training Frank Sinatra's crew on Frank Sinatra's Falcon 20. Yeah, amazing. Then, after he left Frank Sinatra's crew, after getting them all and his chief pilot, then he was hired by Ralph Lauren for Ralph's Falcon 20, and he trained Ralph Lauren's team and flew all over from New York to Miami to Telluride to LA with Ralph Lauren and his crew. And so I've gone through an annual recurrent with Sal in the Falcon twice. Sal's a great guy, and the last time we did it, we had a very, very memorable and awfully dangerous situation take place that scared the bejeevers out of us. So in the Falcon, This thing holds like, if I remember correctly, 1,300 gallons or something. It's just it's a huge amount of fuel, right? And so they have valves on the left wing and right wing that you can control from the inside to shift fuel from one side to the other and from the wings to the feeder tanks. The feeder tanks are what feed the engines. And we had just topped off, or put about 5,000, wasn't topped off, put about 5,000 pounds of fuel on a plane that day. And it was balanced out, 2,500 pounds per side. And it was low ceilings. There was a stormy day. And we had planned on blasting off out of here and flying out of the stormy area to go do our training and then come back and then land. And as soon as we blasted off, like as soon as we got wheels, the gear up right in IMC, though we didn't know this at the time, but what happened was one of the left valves failed in the open position, pouring all the fuel from the left wing into the right wing. We didn't know this. We just knew I couldn't control the aircraft. Although all 5,000 pounds of the fuel was on the right side, and it was like this. I mean, I had rudder down, we had forward, and we declared an emergency. We couldn't hold altitude. We couldn't hold the heading. We were all over the place. They had to clear the sky air, clear like the whole section of airspace around this Dallas area. We were all over the board trying to get this thing under control. I told Sal to leave the aircraft alone. I'm going to get this under, and it was like one leg here, it was extremely dangerous and scary. I finally was able to get the aircraft somewhat under control to where we were able to fly. We were able to get the ILS in. We were able to get vectors to come back around and land. I have no idea how we freaking landed safely, but we did. And when we landed, all the equipment was there, all the fire trucks, ambulances. We were so scared. We taxied in and just shut the engines down, and we sat in the cockpit for like 20 minutes and just looked at each other and kind of debriefed, what the heck just happened? What in the world just happened? And that's when we were able to see that all the fuel was on the right side. We had noticed that when we were flying, and in retrospect, on the ground, we're like, well, we could have gone and changed this and opened that valve and turned this to push the fuel back over to here, but it was such a dire emergency situation. And so, when we taxied off, Sal looked at me and he said, I'll fly with you anytime, and you passed your biannual, your annual check ride, your annual recurrent. I was like, it was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy. Yeah. But that was a challenge we had with the Falcon. There's so many other stories I could tell you about, but I think the most important thing here is stay recurrent, stay in it, try to learn, try to be a sponge, learn from every single person you fly with, because somebody always has something or a series of some things they can teach you, good, bad, or indifferent, but learn. Learn what not to do, learn what you should do, learn what's a really good best practice that maybe you hadn't thought of, because every single time I fly, I learn something. I mean, even today, I learned something. I mean, and so, but I love aviation. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. And I encourage all of you out there to put your dreams down on paper and go after them. Just charge after them. Start small. Start with a 150. Start somewhere. But do it. Thanks. See ya.
Hey gang, here from Hangar Talk. Thank you so much for plugging into the channel, liking, subscribing. We appreciate all you continuous subscribers, and we can't wait to see you on the next one.